Welcome back to Swift Tale, where real stories of courage, justice, and jaw-dropping twists come alive. Today's story begins with a moment so shocking, so unsettling, that it sent an entire courtroom into stunned silence. Imagine this, a black woman simply standing in line for her hearing, calm and composed, when suddenly a police officer slams her against the courtroom wall with unnecessary force. Gasps echo through the room. People freeze. No one expects what happens next, least of all the officer himself, because in just a few minutes, one single sentence from the woman he assaulted will not only expose the truth, but completely end his career. If you're visiting Swift Tale for the first time, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Do you enjoy real-life stories where justice takes surprising turns? Today's episode matters because it highlights the devastating consequences of abuse of power, the importance of accountability, and the strength of speaking up even in the face of injustice. This is not just a story of violence, it's a story of truth, courage, and a courtroom that ultimately demanded justice. Let's dive in. The morning begins like any other at the bustling downtown courthouse, a place where tension and routine collide daily. The echo of footsteps, the shuffle of paperwork, and the low hum of conversations fill the hallways as people wait nervously for their cases to be called. Amid the steady flow of citizens stands Maya Thompson, a calm and soft-spoken woman in her early 30s, dressed neatly and holding a folder of documents. She's here for a simple civil matter, expecting nothing more than a quick appearance before the judge. But as she walks into courtroom 4B, she notices the heavy atmosphere, a mixture of impatience, anxiety, and the intimidating presence of the courtroom's security officer, Deputy Bradley Kane. Known by frequent visitors for his stern demeanor and rigid approach, today he seems even more on edge. His eyes scan the room sharply, lingering on people longer than necessary, especially on Maya. As she takes her seat, unaware of the storm brewing around her, the courtroom grows quieter, the tension almost palpable. Little does anyone know that this ordinary morning is about to take a dramatic turn that will alter lives and expose a truth long hidden behind the badge. As the minutes pass, the quiet unease in the courtroom begins to sharpen. Maya sits patiently, reviewing the documents in her lap, but she can't help noticing the way Deputy Kane keeps glancing in her direction, his stare uncomfortably long, his posture rigid. When an elderly man accidentally drops a stack of papers, Kane helps him without hesitation, his tone courteous and calm. But when Maya simply shifts in her seat to reach for her phone, his voice cuts sharply across the room. "Ma'am, keep your hands visible." The sudden bark makes several people turn their heads, but Maya offers a polite nod, trying not to escalate things. Still, something feels wrong. She watches as others quietly check their phones, whisper to their companions, or move their belongings with no issue at all. It becomes clear that she is being singled out, whether intentionally or not. Maya tries to brush the discomfort aside, reminding herself she just needs to get through her hearing and go home. But each small interaction, Kane's long stares, his clipped responses, his impatient sighs, slowly chips away at the room's sense of normalcy. A young mother sitting nearby notices the tension and gives Maya a sympathetic glance, silently acknowledging what everyone else seems afraid to. Kane's behavior is different with her. This subtle shift marks the beginning of a much larger problem, the first ripple in a chain of events that will soon erupt into something no one in the room could have predicted. The uneasy atmosphere finally begins to take shape when Maya steps forward to ask a simple, polite question about where she should place her documents for the clerk. Her voice is calm, steady, and respectful, barely above a normal speaking tone. But before the clerk can respond, Deputy Kane strides toward her with heavy, echoing footsteps, his expression hardening into something colder than before. "Sit down now," he snaps, as if she had committed a serious offense simply by speaking. The abruptness of his tone startles not only Maya but several people sitting nearby. She briefly hesitates, confused, and tries to clarify, I just wanted to know which." But he cuts her off sharply, his voice rising. "I said sit down." The entire courtroom stiffens. Whispering dies instantly as eyes shift toward the pair. Maya, visibly taken aback, lifts her hands slightly in a gesture of peace and begins to explain that she was only following procedure, but Kane steps closer, too close, towering over her as if she were a threat rather than a citizen seeking information. The tension is so thick it feels like the oxygen has drained from the room. A woman in the second row grips her purse, a man mutters under his breath, and yet no one dares intervene. The moment is like a match pressed against dry tinder. Everyone senses that the wrong move could ignite something uncontrollable. Maya lowers her gaze, trying to diffuse the situation, but Kane's posture grows more confrontational by the second. His jaw clenches, and his hand hovers near his duty belt, a silent warning that needs no explanation. Maya realizes she is no longer dealing with routine enforcement. She is facing a man already primed for conflict, and she is his target. The confrontation has begun, and though Maya remains composed, the atmosphere shifts from simple unease to an unmistakable undercurrent of danger. What happens next unfolds so fast that the witnesses barely have time to process it. Maya, trying her best to remain calm, gently nods and starts to return to her seat. She moves slowly, openly, giving Kane no reason to feel threatened. But the deputy, already simmering with hostility, seems to interpret even her smallest movement as defiance. In one sudden, explosive motion, he grabs her by the arm, so forcefully that several people gasp aloud. Maya's eyes widen in shock as he yanks her toward the wall. Before she can utter a word, Kane shoves her hard, slamming her back against the cold, unforgiving surface. The sound echoes through the courtroom like a gunshot, a sickening thud that silences the room instantly. Maya cries out in pain, her head striking the wall as she struggles to stay upright. A wave of panic sweeps through the onlookers. A woman in the back row covers her mouth, horrified. The young mother who'd been watching earlier stands halfway from her seat, torn between fear and the instinct to help. Someone whispers, "Oh my God," while another person instinctively reaches for their phone, angling it discreetly to record what just transpired. Kane, breathing hard, pins Maya in place with one hand as if she were a violent criminal, instead of a citizen asking a simple question. Even in pain, Maya manages to raise her hands, palms open and visible, whispering, "Please, I didn't do anything." Her voice trembles not in guilt, but in disbelief at how quickly she's been dehumanized. But Kane doesn't stop. His grip tightens. His voice, low and brimming with false authority, accuses her of resisting, of not following orders, of being a threat. The lies spill out as if rehearsed, each accusation louder and more aggressive than the last. The courtroom, once filled with routine chatter, now feels like a cage. No judge, no oversight, no barrier between Maya and the officer abusing his power. People look around helplessly, horrified at what they're witnessing yet terrified of intervening. Kane's temper has crossed the line, far beyond what his badge, his oath, or basic human decency allow. And all the while, Maya stands trembling against the wall, unaware that in the midst of this terrifying moment, someone's recording is already capturing every second, and that a single sentence she will speak soon will change everything. The courtroom, moments ago buzzing with ordinary tension, now feels frozen in a state of collective disbelief. After the violent slam, time seems to halt. Maya remains pressed against the wall, her breath unsteady, her eyes dazed from the impact. Her fingers tremble as she reaches toward the spot on her head that struck the wall, and for a brief moment she sways, trying not to collapse. The silence that follows is heavy, so heavy that even the faint hum of the fluorescent lights seems suddenly deafening. No one moves, no one speaks. Every witness is trapped between outrage and fear, unsure whether stepping forward will help or make things worse. Deputy Kane breaks the silence first. His voice booms through the courtroom, sharp and defensive, dripping with anger and an attempt to regain control. "You resisted," he declares loudly, turning his version of events into a public announcement. "You refused to follow orders. I had no choice." His tone carries a practiced confidence, as though he's delivered these lines before and perhaps gotten away with them. But those watching know what they saw. They know Maya posed no threat, made no sudden moves, offered no provocation. The false narrative he's trying to craft only deepens the discomfort in the room. Maya struggles to lift her head, her voice soft but pained as she tries to speak. "I didn't resist," she whispers. Her words are barely audible, yet they carry more truth than every accusation Kane has hurled. But the deputy dismisses her instantly, snapping, "Quiet," as though her pain is an inconvenience to him. His hand lingers near his sidearm, a silent attempt to intimidate anyone who might dare to contradict him. Several people exchange wide-eyed looks. A man near the aisle clutches his phone tightly beneath his jacket, having already recorded the entire assault. Another witness bites her lip, torn between fear and the urge to defend the woman who has just been brutalized before her eyes. The emotional weight in the room grows heavier with every passing second. Maya feels her heart pounding as she slowly steadies herself. Her breathing is shaky, but beneath the fear building inside her, something else begins to stir, a quiet resolve. She knows what just happened is wrong on every level, legally, morally, and humanly. And although she has been shoved, humiliated, and accused, she refuses to let fear silence her forever. Little does Deputy Kane know that the silence that has settled over the courtroom is not the silence of acceptance. It is the silence before the truth erupts, a silence that will soon shatter his career in a way he never could have imagined. Just as the tension in the courtroom reaches its breaking point, the heavy wooden door behind the bench swings open, and Judge Harold Reynolds steps into the room. His presence is usually enough to settle anxious nerves. His calm demeanor, steady voice, and reputation for fairness make him one of the most respected judges in the county. But today, the second he enters, he immediately senses something is off. The room feels different, tight, distressed, and unnervingly silent. People avoid eye contact, shifting uncomfortably in their seats. And then he sees her. Maya standing by the wall, disoriented, her hand pressed to her head. A small red mark is already forming where she struck the surface. Judge Reynolds's eyes narrow slightly. He knows the look of someone who's been hurt, not by accident, but by force. Before he can even ask what happened, Deputy Kane steps forward hastily, straightening his uniform and clearing his throat with an exaggerated air of authority. "Your Honor," Kane announces quickly, "the woman refused to comply with my instructions. She became aggressive and resisted when I attempted to control the situation." His voice is loud, confident, almost theatrical, too prepared, too quick. A practiced lie delivered with the ease of someone who expects it to be believed. Judge Reynolds does not respond immediately. Instead, he turns his gaze from the deputy to Maya, then slowly across the rest of the courtroom. What he sees tells him more than words ever could. Widened eyes, stiff shoulders, people shifting as though weighed down by something heavy. It doesn't take years of experience to see fear, and it's not pointed at Maya. "Maya Thompson," Judge Reynolds says gently, "are you injured?" His tone is warm, protective even. Maya swallows hard, her voice still unsteady. "I am fine, Your Honor. I just asked a question." She trails off, unsure how much she is allowed to say. Kane glares at her from the corner of his eye, his jaw tightening. The judge notices. He notices everything. He turns back to the deputy. "Officer Kane," he says slowly, "please explain exactly what justified physical force." Kane repeats his story, embellished now, more dramatic, portraying Maya as a threat, a danger, someone who lunged and ignored direct orders. It's an obvious attempt to rewrite reality, but Judge Reynolds isn't buying it. The cracks in Kane's story are already visible, and the tension in the room is pushing the truth closer to the surface. The judge's voice drops a few degrees colder as he asks the question that shifts the entire tone of the moment. Is anyone else willing to confirm the officer's account? Silence, thick, tense, telling, the judge's gaze sweeps the room again. Something is wrong and he knows it. What he doesn't know yet is that Myers only one sentence away from revealing everything and ending Deputy Kane's career forever. Judge Reynolds studies the room carefully, sensing the truth hovering like a storm cloud waiting to burst. The silence that follows his question is deafening. No raised hands, no supporting voices, not even a timid nod. Everyone sits frozen, their eyes flicking nervously between Maya and Deputy Kane. The judge has seen this kind of silence before. It is not the silence of uncertainty, it is the silence of fear. Deputy Kane shifts uncomfortably beside Maya, his posture stiffening as the judge's attention lingers on him. His confidence wavers for the first time, but he quickly masks it with a hard glare in Maya's direction, a silent command to stay quiet. Maya feels the weight of that stare. Her body still aches from being slammed into the wall, but the fear that held her back moments ago begins to dissolve, replaced by something steadier, something braver. Judge Reynolds turns to her again, his voice calm and reassuring. "Ms. Thompson, you may speak freely. This court will hear your side." Maya lifts her head slowly. The room watches her, some hoping she'll speak, others fearing what might happen if she does. Even Kane takes a small step forward, as if preparing to interrupt. But she looks directly at the judge, her voice soft yet unwavering, and delivers the single sentence that changes everything. "Your Honor, the security camera saw everything." The words drop into the courtroom like a weight, heavy and impossible to ignore. Several people inhale sharply. A man in the back murmurs, "Oh, wow," as heads turn instinctively toward the small black dome mounted high on the wall, one that everyone, except apparently Kane, remembers is there. The color drains from Deputy Kane's face. His jaw slackens. His eyes dart toward the judge, then toward the camera, then back to Maya, as if searching for a loophole in reality. But there is none. His carefully crafted lie collapses instantly under the weight of Maya's single, devastating truth. Judge Reynolds leans back slightly in his chair, his expression shifting from suspicion to certainty. "Officer Kane," he says, his voice colder and sharper than before, "I trust you're aware this courthouse has full audio and video surveillance at all times." Kane stammers, unable to form a complete sentence. "Your Honor, she." But it's too late. The room knows. The judge knows. Maya knows. That one sentence has changed everything. The balance of power in the courtroom has flipped, and the officer who thought he could control the narrative now stands exposed, vulnerable, and moments away from watching his entire career crumble before him. The atmosphere in the courtroom shifts instantly after Maya's words land, thick with anticipation and a rising sense of justice. Judge Reynolds straightens in his seat, the weight of authority settling firmly onto his shoulders as he signals to the court clerk. "Play the footage from the security camera," he instructs, leaving no room for debate. The command slices through the tension, and every pair of eyes in the room locks onto the monitor mounted on the wall. Deputy Kane's breathing quickens. His hands twitch at his sides, and a faint sheen of sweat forms on his temple. He knows what the footage will show. There is no angle, no clever phrasing, no fabricated justification that can save him now. Meanwhile, Maya holds her breath, her heart pounding not from fear anymore, but from the fragile hope that truth might finally outweigh intimidation. The video begins. First, the room watches Maya approach the clerk politely, her voice low and respectful. Then the footage shows Kane marching toward her aggressively, his posture confrontational from the start. Next comes the moment no one will ever forget, Kane grabbing her arm with unnecessary force and slamming her against the courtroom wall. The sound of the impact is captured clearly, echoing in the playback just as it had moments earlier in real life. Gasps ripple through the courtroom again, this time not from shock, but from confirmation. Every lie Kane told melts away on screen, the claim that she lunged, proven false. The accusation that she resisted, non-existent. The supposed threat she posed, a complete invention. A murmur spreads through the room as people witness the truth laid bare. A woman who had watched helplessly earlier now wipes a tear from her cheek. The man who secretly recorded the incident lowers his phone. He doesn't need to use his video anymore. The official footage says everything. Judge Reynolds watches without blinking, his jaw tightening with each passing second. When the video ends, he turns his gaze to Kane, and the silence that follows is colder than any shout. "Officer Kane," he says slowly, "your actions and your lies are now matters of recorded fact." Kane opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. His authority, once unquestioned, collapses in an instant. The judge motions to two bailiffs, who step forward without hesitation. Kane takes a step back, panic rising in his eyes, but there is nowhere left for him to hide, not from the judge, not from the witnesses, and certainly not from the truth. As the room finally exhales, Maya closes her eyes, overwhelmed with a mix of relief and exhaustion. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't fight back. She didn't lie. She simply told the truth, and that was enough to unravel everything. The courtroom has seen the truth, and now the consequences are about to begin. The moment the truth is revealed, the courtroom atmosphere changes completely. The tension that had been hanging thick in the air is replaced by a sharp, focused clarity. Judge Reynolds leans forward, his expression calm but unyielding. "Officer Kane," he says firmly, "you will be detained pending a full investigation. Your actions today constitute both an abuse of authority and a violation of courtroom protocol. The words hit Kane like a hammer. For the first time, he realizes that the badge he had relied on to protect him offers no shield against documented truth. Two bailiffs step toward him, their movements precise and unhesitant. Kane raises his hands, his defiance faltering under the weight of the evidence against him. Murmurs ripple through the courtroom as witnesses process the sight of a man so confident minutes ago now rendered powerless by his own misconduct. Maya, though still shaken, maintains her composure. Her shoulders are tense, her hands slightly trembling, but her voice remains steady when Judge Reynolds addresses her directly. "Are you physically all right, Ms. Thompson?" She nods, quietly affirming that she is, though the pain from the impact lingers. The judge orders Kane escorted from the courtroom immediately. Officers guide him past the spectators, who watch silently, some with visible relief, others with disbelief at the rapid unfolding of justice. Meanwhile, the courthouse administration is already in motion. Internal Affairs is notified, and a full departmental review of Kane's actions is initiated. No paperwork, no excuses, and no delays. Today, accountability is immediate and unavoidable. For the witnesses, the lesson is strikingly clear. Inaction is no longer an option when authority is misused. For Kane, the consequence is personal and irreversible. His career, built over years, now teeters on the edge of collapse because of a single unjust act. And for Maya, the incident becomes a testament to courage and the power of truth in the face of intimidation. In mere moments, the courthouse has transitioned from a scene of violence to a stage for justice, demonstrating that even the strongest abuses of power can crumble when confronted with evidence and integrity. The first domino has fallen. The investigation begins. Careers hang in the balance, and the ripple effects of this courtroom incident are only starting to unfold. Once Deputy Kane is removed from the courtroom, the wheels of the investigation begin turning immediately. Internal Affairs opens a full review of the incident, meticulously documenting every detail captured on the security footage. Witness statements are collected from everyone present in the courtroom: the young mother who watched in shock, the man who secretly recorded the initial moments, the clerk, and even other officers who were on duty that day. Each testimony paints a consistent picture of Kane's aggressive behavior, leaving little room for doubt. The video evidence corroborates every account, leaving no question about the deputy's misconduct. As investigators dig deeper, a troubling pattern emerges. Kane has a history of complaints for excessive force and verbal intimidation, though many previous allegations were dismissed or went unpunished due to lack of solid evidence. Now, however, the security camera footage provides an irrefutable record of his actions. Supervisors and senior officers review his personnel files and shake their heads. What was once a series of minor infractions now reads like a clear pattern of abuse, escalating from subtle intimidation to outright physical aggression. Meanwhile, Maya is contacted by the investigative team. She provides a calm, detailed statement, recounting every moment with precision. Her honesty, clarity, and composure further strengthen the case against Kane, making it impossible for the department to ignore the severity of his misconduct. The investigation quickly moves from preliminary inquiry to a formal disciplinary process. Within the courthouse, the news spreads among staff and attorneys. Kane's career is on life support. The footage, combined with consistent eyewitness testimony and Maya's unshakable statement, creates a scenario where accountability is not only inevitable but demanded. What began as an ordinary day in court has now escalated into a case study in abuse of power, with far-reaching consequences for both the deputy and the system he represents. The stage is set for the final verdict, a moment that will determine Kane's future and in many ways serve as a landmark example of justice in action. After days of careful review, hearings, and deliberation, the moment of reckoning for Deputy Kane arrives. The administrative tribunal convenes in a formal setting, with senior law enforcement officials, internal affairs representatives, and legal counsel all present. The tension is palpable. Kane, once brimming with authority and confidence, sits rigidly in the room, his hands clasped tightly together, his knuckles white. Every eye in the room is fixed on him, every detail of his past behavior and the security footage weighed heavily against him. Witnesses are called, including Maya, who enters composed and dignified despite the physical and emotional ordeal she endured. Her testimony is firm, clear, and consistent with the evidence. She recounts every moment of Cain's aggression, from the initial intimidation to the slam against the courtroom wall, and emphasizes the fear and humiliation she experienced. The video footage is presented again, each second a silent indictment of the officer's actions. Cain attempts to interject, to justify, to explain, but the tribunal's response is patient, methodical, and unwavering. Every argument he makes is undercut by undeniable evidence and credible eyewitness accounts. After hours of testimony and deliberation, the panel reaches its verdict. Cain's misconduct is found to be not only a breach of protocol, but a violation of both legal and ethical standards. The decision is definitive. He is terminated from his position immediately, stripped of his badge and authority, and faces potential criminal charges for assault and abuse of power. The room is silent for a brief moment as the weight of the announcement settles over Cain. His career, built over years, crumbles in an instant, undone by a single moment of recklessness and arrogance. Maya, though exhausted, shows a quiet sense of vindication. She is treated with respect and support by both the tribunal and the courtroom staff. The verdict sends a clear message. Abuse of authority, particularly when documented and witnessed, will not be tolerated. The officer who once believed he was untouchable is now exposed, his power dismantled by courage, truth, and accountability. The case closes not just as a personal triumph for Maya, but as a public example of how integrity and evidence can overcome intimidation and misconduct. The ripple effects of this verdict will extend beyond the courtroom, inspiring conversations about justice, responsibility, and the importance of standing up to wrongdoing, lessons that will resonate long after Cain's name fades from public attention. News of the courtroom incident spreads rapidly, fueled by the security footage and first-hand accounts from witnesses. Social media erupts as clips of Cain's aggression and Maya's composed response are shared widely. Hashtags highlighting police accountability and the power of speaking the truth begin trending almost immediately. Viewers across the country, and eventually around the world, react with shock, outrage, and admiration. Many express disbelief that an officer could behave so violently in a public setting, while others commend Maya for her courage and restraint. Comments flood in, ranging from anger at Cain's misconduct to inspiration drawn from Maya's bravery. Mainstream media outlets quickly pick up the story, reporting on the viral video and providing detailed analysis of the incident. Legal experts discuss the importance of video evidence in holding law enforcement accountable, while commentators debate the broader implications of misconduct in the justice system. Editorials emphasize the lessons to be learned, that unchecked authority can lead to abuse, and that even in intimidating situations, truth and composure can have transformative power. Meanwhile, Maya becomes a quiet symbol of courage for many. Interviews with her focus on the importance of staying calm, speaking truthfully, and relying on documented evidence rather than reacting with anger or fear. The narrative paints her as a voice of reason and integrity, demonstrating that one individual's bravery can spark broader conversations about justice and accountability. Deputy Cain, now facing widespread public scrutiny, sees his reputation collapse as rapidly as his career did. The story becomes a cautionary tale for officers and citizens alike, illustrating that no act of misconduct goes unnoticed in an era of constant surveillance and instant information sharing. The courtroom incident has left its mark far beyond the walls of the courthouse, igniting a national dialogue about fairness, power, and the consequences of abusing authority. The viral reaction not only amplifies the impact of Maya's actions, but also sets the stage for reflection and discussion about how society can prevent similar incidents in the future, reinforcing that accountability is both necessary and possible when courage and truth are unwavering. The story of Maya Thompson and Deputy Cain leaves a profound and enduring lesson about behavior, respect, and the importance of standing up for oneself. At its core, it demonstrates that authority is not an excuse for abuse, and that every individual, regardless of circumstance, has the right to be treated with dignity. Maya's courage in speaking the truth, coupled with her composure under extreme pressure, shows that personal integrity can triumph over intimidation, and that one person's voice can hold power even in the face of overwhelming authority. For viewers, this incident serves as a reminder that actions have consequences. Cain's career, built over years, was destroyed in a single moment of impulsive aggression, highlighting how a lack of self-control and abuse of power can undo everything. In contrast, Maya's calm, honest response became the instrument of justice, showing that courage and composure are as potent as force. The story also underscores the role of evidence and accountability systems, demonstrating how surveillance and documentation can ensure fairness in situations where words alone might not suffice. Beyond the individual consequences, the narrative carries broader societal lessons. It encourages reflection on the treatment of citizens in positions of vulnerability, the responsibilities of law enforcement to uphold the law without prejudice, and the importance of checks and balances within the justice system. The public reaction to the case reinforces the notion that communities value fairness, truth, and accountability, and that misconduct cannot remain hidden when people are willing to stand up for what is right. Ultimately, this section leaves viewers with a clear takeaway. Integrity, truth, and the courage to speak out are invaluable, while abuse of power carries irreversible consequences. Maya's experience illustrates that even in moments of fear and injustice, one's actions can catalyze change, inspire others, and set a powerful example of accountability, respect, and redemption. It is a story that resonates far beyond the courtroom, offering lessons that can be applied in everyday life and society at large. As this extraordinary courtroom story comes to a close, the lessons it leaves behind are clear and unforgettable. From a sudden act of violence to the decisive power of truth, Maya Thompson's courage demonstrates that even in moments of fear and intimidation, integrity can prevail. Deputy Cain's career-ending mistake serves as a stark reminder that authority is not absolute, and that abuse, no matter how brief or brazen, will eventually face consequences. For the audience of Swift Tale, this story is more than a dramatic account. It is a testament to the importance of accountability, honesty, and courage in everyday life. Reflecting on the journey, viewers can see the ripple effects of standing up for what is right. Maya's calm yet firm response in the face of aggression became the turning point, proving that composure and truth can outweigh intimidation and power. The incident encourages everyone to consider how they might react in similar situations and underscores that speaking up, documenting evidence, and relying on reason and integrity are vital tools for justice. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Swift Tale so you never miss another tale of real-life courage, drama, and transformation. Comment below and tell us, how would you have responded if you were in Maya's shoes? Could you have stayed calm under pressure, or would fear have taken over? Stories like these remind us that every action counts, and even one voice can make a world of difference. Thank you for watching, and remember, truth, integrity, and courage are more powerful than force, and justice can prevail when we stand up for what is right.